Do you want to know how a small company led to 90 years of colonial rule in India? If yes, you're at the right place. In this video, I will tell you how the East India Company defeated all other regional powers and conquered India. But before we begin with our video, please like and subscribe to support our efforts in bringing you this history. So, let's dive into the 1600s. Have you ever wondered why the East India Company preferred to trade in India instead of any other country? Actually, the East India Company initially focused on the spice trade in Southeast Asia, but facing heavy competition from the Dutch, they shifted their focus to India, where they found lucrative opportunities in textiles, spices, and other goods. But if the British wanted to trade in India, they needed permission from the strongest ruler at that time, the Mughal Emperor. In 1608, the East India Company sent Captain William Hawkins to Emperor Jahangir's court, where he requested permission to set up a trading port in Surat. However, the Portuguese opposed them, influencing the Mughal court, and as a result, Jahangir rejected their request, seeing the British as weaker compared to the rich Portuguese. After this failure, the British realized that as long as the Portuguese dominated Indian trade, they wouldn't get permission from the Mughals. So, they started a conflict against the Portuguese. After multiple diplomatic failures, the British sent Sir Thomas Roe, an ambassador from King James of England, in 1615. Roe befriended Jahangir, offering European goods and gifts. This time, the Mughals granted them permission to set up factories in Agra, Surat, and Ahmedabad in 1617. This permission allowed the British to expand their trade, but they soon wanted more than just factories. They wanted control. As the Mughal Empire remained powerful, the British couldn't challenge them directly. However, they tried to force the Mughals into giving them more privileges, leading to the first war between the British and the Mughals, the Child's War, from 1686 to 1690. By the 1680s, the East India Company had expanded its trade in India, but Mughal officials often restricted their activities. The British, led by Sir Josiah Child, believed they could intimidate the Mughals with naval power. In 1686, they attacked Bengal and tried to seize Chittagong, hoping to pressure the Mughals into submission. However, they completely underestimated the Mughal response. Aurangzeb, the Mughal emperor at that time, saw this as an act of war and responded with full force. The Mughals blocked British trade routes, attacked British factories in Surat and Bengal, and forced the British governor of Bombay to surrender. By 1690, the British were defeated and forced to apologize. They sent envoys to Aurangzeb, offering gifts and begging for forgiveness. Instead of expelling them completely, Aurangzeb allowed them to continue trading, but now under strict Mughal control. Though the British lost this war, they learned a crucial lesson. They could not win against the Mughals through military force alone. Instead, they began using diplomacy, bribery, and political manipulation, which later helped them gain power in India. As the Mughal Empire started facing internal conflicts and weak successors, the British saw an opportunity. But before they could rise as the dominant power, they had to eliminate their European rivals, the Dutch and the French. In 1674, the British clashed with the Dutch in a naval battle off the coast of Hooghly, Bengal. The British emerged victorious, weakening Dutch influence in Bengal, and allowing them to strengthen their hold over this crucial province. But their biggest rival remained, the French. The First Carnatic War, which took place from 1746 to 1748, was the first major conflict between the British and the French in India. The French, under Joseph-François Dupleix, attacked and captured Madras in 1746. However, in 1748 the war ended with the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle, and the British got Madras back. This war showed the British that trade alone wasn't enough. Military power was equally important. From this point, the British began expanding their private army, knowing that controlling India would require both diplomacy and force. As the British grew stronger, they were looking for political opportunities, and the wealthiest province in India, Bengal, became their primary target. In 1757, the British clashed with Siraj-ud-Dowlah, the Nawab of Bengal, in the Battle of Plassey, but this battle was decided before it even began. The British had secretly bribed Mir Jafar, one of Siraj-ud-Dowlah's top commanders, and convinced him to betray his own Nawab. As a result, Siraj-ud-Dowlah was defeated, and the British installed Mir Jafar as their puppet ruler in Bengal. Mir Jafar gave the British massive trade privileges, but when he later tried to oppose them, they removed him and replaced him with his son-in-law, Mir Qasim. However, when Mir Qasim also tried to resist British control, another war followed. The Battle of Buxar in 1764 was even more significant than Plassey. This time, the British fought against an alliance of Mir Qasim, Shuja-ud-Dowlah, the Nawab of Awadh, and Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. But once again, the British emerged victorious. This defeat destroyed the last remaining authority of the Mughal Empire. The Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II was forced to sign the Treaty of Allahabad in 1765, granting the British the right to collect taxes in Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. From this point, the Mughal emperor was nothing more than a British puppet. The British continued using puppet rulers in different regions. They installed weak nawabs in Awadh and Carnatic, forcing them into subsidiary alliances, meaning they ruled in name but followed British orders. For decades, the British used the Mughal emperor as a symbolic figure, but by the mid-1800s, they no longer needed this illusion. Realizing that direct control would be more beneficial, the British officially ended the rule of the East India Company in 1858. The British Crown dissolved the company and took direct control over India, marking the beginning of the British Raj. And that's how a small trading company slowly took over an entire subcontinent. But this was not the end of India's story. In the years that followed, India would see multiple movements, revolts, and revolutions against British rule, and that's exactly what we'll cover in our upcoming videos. So, if you want to know how India continued its fight and eventually broke free from British rule, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. The next chapter of India's struggle is coming soon.